I'm Elaine Reyes at the United Nations headquarters in New York, and this is UN Insider.
Coming up.
It was always precarious. And it seems today, with fighting taking place in Rafah and Israeli bombing having resumed in the Rafah area, it is more precarious than ever.
Will the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas hold? New flare-ups raise questions about the fragile truce.
We need a peaceful solution because humanitarian response is not a solution to the war.
Violence intensifies in Sudan, putting more strain on an already dire humanitarian crisis.
We have 666 million people across the world without access to electricity, and 565 million of those reside in my continent, Africa.
Ensuring no one is left behind. A conversation on efforts to bring clean, sustainable electricity to all. Next.
This peace proposal was always precarious, right from the start, in spite of all the hoopla. It was always precarious. And it seems today, with fighting taking place in Rafah and Israeli bombing having resumed in the Rafah area, it is more precarious than ever.
There are growing concerns about the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. This week, Israel launched new strikes in Gaza after accusing Hamas of firing on Israeli forces. Hamas denies the claim and delayed the handover of a hostage's remains in response. The latest tests of the ceasefire came amid a new report from an independent commission that accuses Israel and its leadership of acts of genocide in the Palestinian territory. Members of the commission say they are pushing for accountability on both sides of the conflict.
The criminal activities of both the Palestinian militant leadership and the Israeli political and military leadership must end. And they will only end when those who are responsible for the crimes are held to account. One of the failures of the 20-point proposal is that there is no provision for accountability. There can be no peace in Israel and Palestine without accountability. There can be no justice in Israel and Palestine without accountability.
Shudija is monitoring developments inside the UN and has more on our top story. Deja.
Yes, Elaine. This week, the UN headquarters has been packed with events and meetings. So let's dive right in. Well, first, the situation in Gaza. Although the ceasefire remains fragile but largely holding, there's still been no significant increase in humanitarian aid deliveries. What's the UN's response?
Does this current situation fit, achieved for that 60-day target?
Look, we're getting more aid in, right? We're distributing more fuel. We're distributing more water. More medicine is going in. We need a lot more. But we are, we've been saying since the beginning, we will utilize every space that is afforded to us to deliver humanitarian aid, and that's exactly what we're doing.
The General Assembly's Third Committee held a meeting on the human rights situation in the occupied Palestinian territory. Special Rapporteur Francisca Albanese, who has been outspokenly critical of Israel and was recently sanctioned by the United States, addressed the committee remotely.
My report makes it clear. These horrors are neither sudden or accidental. They are the culmination of decades of moral and political failure within a resilient colonial world order sustained by a global system of complicity.
Her remarks drew pushback from Israeli Ambassador Denis Denoun.
This report is another page in your spellbook. You have tried to curse Israel with lies and hatred, but your poison has failed.
And here is what Albanese told reporters afterward.
It seems to me that all this fanfare is rather to distract the attention from the findings. And, after 3 years of being exposed to this, I almost don't feel anymore the personal attacks because they are far away. What I hear more loudly is the cry for end of the brutality and the genocide from Gaza, end of an ethnic cleansing from the West Bank.
Meanwhile, the group of Friends for Peace in the Ukraine crisis, led by China and Brazil, delivered a joint statement on the latest developments. What's the message coming from the Global South?
Deeply troubled by the prolonged hostilities and the immense negative impacts, this group was among the first to call for an immediate and complete ceasefire, a call we firmly reiterate today. We underscore the need to observe principles for de-escalation and the importance of non-expansion of the battlefield and non-intensification of fighting.
Now to Cuba. This week, the General Assembly once again adopted a resolution calling for an end to the U.S. economic, commercial, and financial embargo against Cuba.
In favor, 165, against 7, abstentions 12. Draft resolution A/80/L6 is adopted.
It's the 33rd time such a resolution has been passed since 1992. And finally, one of the UN headquarters' main entrances was closed again this week, forcing diplomats to queue outside to enter the premises. The closure follows a staff sick-out protest over benefit cuts. And here's what the UN had to say.
We are facing unprecedented financial hardship, and lowering break times in order to avoid job loss is a necessary measure. But what I can also tell you is that the building is very much secure at this point.
And that's all from me for now. Back to you, Elaine.
Shudaja, thanks. Violence in Sudan is fueling a humanitarian crisis. Tens of millions are facing acute hunger. Rival factions have been fighting for control of Sudan since 2023.
This week, fighting intensified in the Darfur region, and the RSF opposition group claimed it had captured the city of El Fasher. It was the Sudanese army's last stronghold in the region. The UN is concerned about the potential for human rights abuses and large-scale atrocities in the region. It is encouraging the RSF to allow civilians to leave El Fasher and to allow humanitarian aid into the city. Here's the UN's resident and humanitarian coordinator in Sudan, Denise Brown.
It's the people of the Sudan who are suffering the consequences of this war. Those consequences are widespread. They're affecting not only individuals, but families and communities. And a peaceful solution needs to be found.
Let's take a look at some of the other issues on the UN's agenda.
The peace process has regained momentum and witnessed significant progress since the 19th April ceasefire agreement, which was facilitated by Chad and signed between the Central African government and the two most active armed groups in the country.
The special representative for the Central African Republic says 11 armed groups have disbanded in the country since a July peace agreement. Some groups have turned over their weapons to the peacekeeping mission in CAR. Elections scheduled for December could provide additional stability in the country. The UN is encouraging global solidarity as it ramps up relief efforts in the Caribbean for those affected by Hurricane Melissa. The powerful storm made landfall in Jamaica Tuesday as a Category 5. It is the strongest storm to ever hit the island and one of the strongest storms ever recorded in the Atlantic.
The UN Cybercrime Convention is a powerful, legally binding instrument to strengthen our collective defenses against cybercrime.
During his trip to Vietnam, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres applauded the UN's Cybercrime Convention. 65 countries have signed on to the first universal framework for investigating and prosecuting online crimes, from ransomware to online fraud.
Coming up,
It's about the global community coming together and explaining that this is really, really important and this affects everyone.
UN Insider.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there. To see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Millions of people around the world live without reliable access to energy. SDG 7 aims to change that. I discussed the effort to bring modern energy to all with Damilola Ogunbiyi. She is the CEO and Special Representative for Sustainable Energy for All and the co-chair of UN Energy. We are 5 years away from 2030, and 1 in 5 people still lack access to electricity, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa. How can we bring reliable, clean, renewable energy to that population and other populations in the world?
So you are right. We have 666 million people across the world without access to electricity, and 565 million of those reside in my continent, Africa. When we look at the global framework, when we look at the investments in energy, we see that we've surpassed fossil fuels. We've got about 2.2 trillion now going into the energy sector, which is fantastic. But what people don't talk about is only 15% of that money goes into emerging and developing economies, and only 2% of that money comes into Africa. So even if we had the best policies in the world, if we had good transitions, the best program managers to solve this, and we definitely have the technology, if we do not have the right types of financing going into these sectors, we won't achieve our targets. And that's why we are working with the World Bank and the AFDB on their program to provide electricity to 300 million Africans by 2030. But it's a huge lift, and it's a type of thing that it's not just about African government, it's about the global community coming together and explaining that this is really, really important and this affects everyone in the world.
Some other numbers here for you. Nearly 3 billion people rely on wood, coal, charcoal, animal waste for cooking or heating. What is being done currently to transition people away from that into cleaner, more renewable forms of energy?
Again, that's a great question, because clean cooking is also sometimes seen as a stepchild of electrification and not really focused on. So globally, yes, there are 2.1 billion people that have no access to clean cooking. And why it's staggering is that even on my continent, it's the 5th largest cause of death on an African woman. And if you think about it, as me as a mother, can imagine I spend 5-6 hours going to collect fuelwood, bring it home to cook, and I'm dying inside because I'm trying to cook for my family. So it's, you know, it hits deforestation, and it hits human capacity, hits health, and it's one of the really, really critical issues of our lifetime. So one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to marry, when we have electrification efforts, with clean cooking at the same time. We're also working with countries, when you're planning for your electrification plans, can you also plan for clean cooking? Cost the clean cooking, what it would really, really take to take people out of fuel wood. And then finally, having some of the climate finances coming into the market, like what is happening, can we have carbon markets really drive this area, because it causes so much deforestation in certain areas. So it's not just, I would like clean cooking, it's that if I do clean cooking, there's so many other knock-on effects and so many other SDGs that it would achieve, that it's important that we all come around it.
Because I don't think people realize these sort of links I mean, it's a public health issue, as you point
Absolutely.
out. There's also a climate-related issue to it as well, and they're all connected.
They are all connected. So, we can't stop and say it's okay for 1 billion people, if the trajectory keeps going, by 2030 to have limited access to electricity, and all of a sudden by 2050 we're going to achieve our 1.5 target. We just can't do it. It's the math. So it's in all our benefits to invest now to make sure the people coming on the energy and electricity and clean cooking ladder are coming on in a clean and sustainable way instead of a dirty way, and a sustainable energy for all and a UN system. Our focus is to make sure we don't leave anyone behind.
Now, you previously led efforts to end energy poverty in your home country. What did you see and learn from that experience, and how is that helping you now?
So first, one of the key things was that speed and scale really does matter. We were able to electrify almost 8 million people in 18 months. So we can do it. And we did that, a lot of that through decentralized renewable energy. So one of the things that I'm learning from all of this is that there's going to be different solutions for different environments, and we shouldn't be scared about it. We shouldn't take, what we're doing in Lagos, Nigeria, and say, oh, that's going to work in Nairobi, or it's going to work in China. Like, no, you have to understand the unique environments. But what I also notice is that the technology costs have dramatically gone down. So back in the day, I was trying to convince people to use solar energy. Now it is actually the most cost-effective way. And then finally, for me, what we have now evolved to is energy for productivity, right? How do I live a productive life? How do I have energy for my farming, energy for SMEs, things like that? Because that is going to be what it calls economic growth. And we have so many villages and communities telling us, you can power my home, but if you power where I work, I will get the disposable income to live a better, dignified life. So we really need to listen to people on the continent and not come up with these programs and then try and implement it on ground. We need to be on ground, and we need to just really, really understand that economic growth and energy access are one of the same.
We know that China's president has recently announced some big targets for the country ahead of COP30. China is the largest producer of renewable energy in the world. Taking the lead when it comes to solar and wind, is there anything among all this that other countries can maybe learn what China is doing?
No, absolutely. I think what makes China really unique is they come and study the countries as well and study what they need. So when I was in Nigeria, one of the big pushes that we had from the Chinese supplier was being able to give equipment with vendor financing. So kind of buy now, pay later, or allowing them to pay over a period of time was a complete game changer. Because a lot of the grants they were going to get, or resource-based financing, or the funding from, people even paying for energy, comes a bit later. So being able to do that was important. The other thing that we've been working with our green manufacturing and our green industrial hub is how we're having Chinese manufacturers come and at least start up assembly in continent. And I'm really glad to say I can show 4 or 5 PV plants now, at least between Lagos and Accra, that Chinese have partnered with local companies to develop. So it's not just about, the Chinese are also looking about broadening the supply chain instead of saying, oh, everybody bring into our continent, but what can we do productively? And I think a lot of countries that are saying they want to do more trade, or why is it always the Chinese? They need to learn from these models of how the Chinese have worked. I must admit, the Chinese are something that's very familiar to Africa anyway. This is our 4 decades of us having the Chinese build large infrastructure, ports, and things like that. But they're also focused on making sure no one's left behind. And I think that is a very, very interesting model, and one with all this geopolitical tension, we should align to that it's not a geopolitical thing. This is just about giving people dignified lives.
Damilola Ogunbiyi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
UN Insider.
Holding guns. Word protesters.
you worried about your life at that particular time?
Not at all.
Excellency, thank you very much for your time. What is your assessment of the state of the continent today?
Africa has the potential to power itself.
Excuse me.
Renewable energy is becoming a more popular option. In Argentina, the sun is powering a new transportation option in a remote region.
Jujuy is a province that has become synonymous with solar power. Heading west from the Humahuaca Valley, we climb up to 4,000 meters of altitude to the Puna region. The air is thin. America's now traveled to see one of Latin America's most heralded solar energy projects.
We are in one of the most inhospitable and remote areas in Argentina. But we have the perfect and ideal environmental conditions for this type of industry, which is solar energy.
This is Cauchari Solar Park. It was built by Chinese company Power China in conjunction with the Jujuy mining and energy company Hemse. Work finalized in 2020 during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. With 600 hectares, there are over 1 million solar panels here.
When it opened, the Cauchari Solar Park became the largest solar park in South America and one of the highest in the world.
Cauchari has transformed energy production in the province of Jujuy.
To give an example of the amount of energy generated last year in the Cauchari Solar Park, we could supply 270,000 homes, for example. That represents practically 70% of the entire province or the consumption of the province in Jujuy.
This solar park provides energy for the province and energy for local industry. Along this line runs electricity that a local lithium extraction project uses. Lithium is another key industry for this region. Jujuy forms part of the so-called Lithium Triangle, an area that spans Argentina, Chile and Bolivia, and that holds more than half of the world's lithium reserves. Lithium is the vital component for batteries, the type that power cell phones, electric cars, and Jujuy's solar train. Constructing this solar park represented a historic shift for the province.
Cauchari was the flagship of this paradigm shift for two reasons. Firstly, it contributes to the fight against climate change by generating clean energy. Secondly, it creates a new productive sector. Jujuy now produces renewable energy on a large scale, something that has not happened before.
The solar train holds special importance in this region of Argentina.
When the decision was made back in the 1990s to divest from trains, it ended up killing small towns. So the train has a great meaning for us, for the people of Jujuy. I think that in other provinces where they have the train, they value it a great deal. It connects towns and generates development. The train will complement tourism, which has grown significantly in recent years.
The Quebrada solar train harnesses the province's natural resources, its growing solar energy industry and lithium production. It is also a project that is designed to create opportunities for local communities.
I am from a very small town, and I was forced to move to be able to work. I started working in the hotel sector, the gastronomy sector, in a cafeteria, and that's how I started working in this industry.
Nestor Lamas is one of the guides that works on this train.
We constantly work with respect and commitment to the communities, so we create spaces where they can offer their products, sell handicrafts, and that way generate what we call a circular economy.
I'm Elaine Reyes at UN headquarters in New York. Thanks for being a UN Insider.